You didn't land on this video by accident. Something greater brought you here, something sacred. Maybe you were just scrolling, or maybe you were searching for clarity without even realizing it. But the truth is this: heaven scheduled this moment for you. This is not just a message. It's not just a voice in a video. It's a divine signal sent to someone who has been chosen for something greater. There is a shift happening in your life. You've felt it. The old patterns are breaking. The place you've been in physically, emotionally, spiritually has started to feel too small. And that's because it is. God is preparing to take you out of where you are and lead you into the place where His promises for your life will finally begin to unfold. Not someday, not eventually, now. But with every shift comes resistance. The enemy knows what this message unlocks. He knows you're close. That's why distractions come. That's why doubts creep in. That's why something may even be trying to pull you away from finishing this video. Don't let it. Because if you stay until the end, something powerful will be revealed. A vision, a confirmation, a glimpse of the very place God is taking you. And when you see it, you'll know in your heart, this is real, this is mine, this is coming. This message is about a new beginning, a new home, a new environment, a new life. Not just a change in your surroundings, but a change in your atmosphere, a place that carries peace, that carries healing, that carries your name. So, listen closely, lean in, let your heart be still enough to hear what heaven is trying to show you. You are standing at the threshold of everything you've been praying for. The time of waiting is over. The shift has already begun. If you feel it, if you know this is for you, declare it now in the comments. This message is for me. I receive it. I'm staying until the end. Chosen one. You've walked through seasons that drained you, places that felt too heavy for your spirit, and rooms where you had to shrink yourself just to belong. You've prayed prayers that no one else heard, cried tears that never made it past your pillow, and kept standing when everything around you said to quit. And while the world may not have noticed, heaven did. Nothing you've endured has gone unseen. Every battle you fought quietly, every disappointment you buried deep, every moment you whispered, "God, are you still with me?" It was all heard. It was all felt. And it has all been written in the book. Heaven keeps for those who continue walking, even when the road feels endless. You may not have seen the answers yet, but that doesn't mean nothing was happening. The silence was not absence, it was alignment. As C.S. Lewis wrote in the Screwtape Letters, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Your courage to persevere through silent battles and unanswered prayers has been the testing point of your faith, aligning your spirit with heaven's purpose. This steadfast endurance has not gone unnoticed. It has been the crucible for your divine preparation. Heaven has been preparing a shift. Something deep within you has already started to notice it. Relationships changing, peace becoming harder to find in places you once felt comfortable, a quiet stirring that says, "This can't be all there is." That's not restlessness, that's revelation. Your soul is recognizing that the environment you've been in no longer fits who you're becoming. The version of you that endured the storm isn't the same one who's about to step into the promise. You haven't been forgotten. You've been hidden for a purpose, protected even in your pain. And now, the time of hiding is ending. The preparation is complete. What heaven spoke over your life in silence is about to be seen in full light. The wilderness didn't break you, it trained you. The waiting didn't weaken you, it refined you. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine timing. Now, everything that tried to hold you back will have to let go. Everything that felt like resistance will begin to make sense. Because the door is opening, and you are the one heaven has been waiting to release. There are moments in life when something changes, not outside of us, but deep within. At first, it's hard to name. The things that once gave comfort no longer feel right. The spaces that once felt familiar begin to feel heavy. The conversations you used to enjoy begin to drain you, and without warning, what once felt like home starts to feel like a holding place. That's how divine shifts begin, not with explosions, but with quiet unrest. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something has started. A spiritual transition has been activated. The ground beneath your spirit is moving not to destabilize you, but to align you. You're not being pushed out of where you've been, you're being called forward. Heaven is rearranging the pieces of your life, not because you failed where you are, but because you've completed the assignment that belonged to this chapter. There is nothing left for you to build here. What needed to be learned has been learned. What needed to break has broken, and now it's time. You are not leaving by emotion or impulse. You are being led by the hand of purpose. This is not a random detour, it's a divine departure. Heaven doesn't disrupt what's comfortable unless what's next is holy. And that's what this is, a sacred transition, the kind that doesn't make perfect sense in the natural, but brings peace to the soul. When God moves a life, He doesn't always explain it to the people around you. Not everyone will understand the shift you're walking through. Some may question it, others may resist it. But you weren't called to convince them, you were called to respond. Because what's happening now is not about approval, it's about obedience. C.S. Lewis, in The Problem of Pain, wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." The quiet unrest stirring within you is God's megaphone, shouting through your discomfort to awaken you to this divine shift. Heed this sacred call, for it is heaven's invitation to step into the holy transition prepared for you. The shift has begun. It's already in motion, and you can feel it not just in your environment, but in your spirit. You are being drawn out of the old and gently guided toward what's been waiting for you all along. The promise is real. The new place is real. The timing is now. It's not just that the place you're in has changed, it's that you have changed. What once gave you peace now stirs discomfort. What used to fit like a covering now feels tight, constricting, foreign. That's not failure, it's growth. It's heaven's way of letting you know that you've outgrown the season you're standing in. There comes a time when staying becomes more dangerous than leaving. Not because the space itself is unsafe, but because it can no longer carry what's inside you. When God expands your spirit, He also shifts your environment to match it. And if you ignore that stirring, if you choose to remain out of habit, guilt, or fear, you risk suffocating the very thing heaven placed within you. You were not made to settle in a place where your voice is silenced, where your purpose is diminished, or where your presence is merely tolerated. That was never the plan. And the longer you stay in a space that no longer honors what God is doing in your life, the heavier it becomes. What once felt like home now becomes a weight. What once refreshed you now drains you. You begin to shrink, to second guess, to survive instead of thrive. That's when you know it's time to go. Leaving doesn't mean dishonor. It doesn't mean rebellion. It means alignment. There are promises over your life that cannot bloom in this soil. There are doors that will never open until you walk away from what's familiar. You don't have to hate where you've been. You just have to recognize that it's not where you're called to remain. This isn't just a relocation, it's a release. Heaven is calling you out not because something went wrong, but because something is finally going right. You're not being cast out, you're being sent forward. The season of settling is closing. The season of stepping into what was spoken is beginning. And though your feet may still be standing where you've always been, your spirit already knows. You can't stay here anymore. What God is preparing for you isn't just a better situation. It's not a minor upgrade. It's not a temporary break from the battle. It is a prophetic promise, fulfilled in physical form, a complete shift in your atmosphere, your surroundings, and your soul's environment. This is not the kind of change that happens by chance. It's the kind that heaven plans generations in advance, waiting until the moment your spirit is ready to carry what your heart has longed for. This is not just about a house. This is about a sacred space where your spirit can breathe freely again, where your calling won't be suffocated, where your gifts won't be ignored, and where your presence won't be misunderstood. It is a home, yes, but more than that, it is a holy territory, marked and sealed for someone heaven has called by name. A space where trauma doesn't linger in the walls. A space where rest is not just physical, but emotional, mental, and deeply spiritual. God is not relocating you for comfort alone, He is restoring you for purpose. In this new environment, things will not function the way they did in the old. You will not have to constantly explain your sensitivity, hide your discernment, or lower your spiritual volume to make others feel comfortable. You will not have to earn love by overextending yourself. You won't be tolerated, you'll be treasured. You won't survive, you'll thrive. This atmosphere has been prepared to match the version of you that you've been becoming through the fire. Every storm you endured, every moment of silence, every delay, it was all shaping the version of you who is now being called forward. The environment you're being led into won't fight your growth. It will accelerate it. It won't drain your energy. It will replenish you. There will be divine flow where there used to be frustration. There will be clarity where there used to be chaos. There will be peace where there used to be panic. And what once seemed impossible will start happening without force or fear. This new life is not something you have to build from scratch. It's something that has already been constructed by grace. God has gone ahead of you. He's opened the door. He's arranged the details. He's placed the right people, the right support, and the right timing in place waiting for your arrival. You won't walk in confused, you'll walk in with confirmation. Your soul will recognize the atmosphere as familiar, even if your eyes are seeing it for the first time. Because the truth is, heaven showed it to you before earth revealed it. You saw glimpses in dreams, you felt echoes in prayer, and now the real is about to touch the visible. When you step into that space, you won't just think, "This is beautiful." You'll know deep down, beyond words, "This is holy, this is mine. This is what heaven promised me." And everything in your life that once felt fragile, delayed, or misaligned will begin to settle into place, as if the chaos was just waiting for this moment to end. You are not just being moved, you are being rerouted. Heaven is planting you in a land that can hold your harvest. You've sowed in tears, now you will reap in joy. You've labored in silence, now you will rise in strength. You've waited with faith, now you will walk in fulfillment. C.S. Lewis, in Letters to Malcolm, chiefly on prayer, wrote, "We must lay before him what is in us, not what ought to be in us. In your dreams and quiet stirrings, you have laid your true spirit before God, and He has responded with this sacred vision of a new life. Your glimpses of this promise are not mere wishes, but divine confirmations, guiding you to the holy territory prepared for your harvest. This is not the end of your story. It's the unfolding of the chapter you were always meant to live. A new home, a new atmosphere, a new life, and this time it will fit. Long before you ever saw this moment with your natural eyes, heaven had already whispered it to your spirit. You've felt it, haven't you? You've caught glimpses. You've had flashes, moments in prayer, dreams in the night, strange impressions during ordinary days where something in you awakened and said, "There's more. There's somewhere else I'm supposed to be." These weren't coincidences. They weren't wishful thinking. They were divine previews. When God is about to move someone, He often plants a vision first, not on a screen, but inside the soul. It may come as a dream that repeats, a house that feels familiar though you've never been there, a number that shows up again and again, or a landscape that causes your spirit to quiet itself in reverence. It may come as a deep sense of peace when you pass a certain place, or a quickening in your heart when you see a particular image. These are not random, they are signals from heaven. You may not have understood them at the time. You may have brushed them off or kept them quietly tucked away. But now, in this season, everything is beginning to connect. The scattered pieces are forming a picture. The whispers are becoming clear. What you once doubted was spiritual is being confirmed again and again, not just through external signs, but by the unmistakable resonance in your own heart. Heaven often speaks in pictures, because pictures reach past logic and settle into memory. God shows you glimpses of the place before you arrive, so that when you see it in real life, your soul will say, "I've been here before." That is how the spirit recognizes fulfillment by what it already knew long before the body arrived. This is why, lately, you may have felt a sense of déjà vu. This is why you've been waking up with names, numbers, or emotions you can't quite explain. Heaven is speaking again and again because your spirit is close, so close that the eternal is beginning to press against the present, so close that what was once just a vision is preparing to become a location, a moment, a move. And the most beautiful thing is, you'll know it when you see it. You won't have to force it. You won't have to second guess. The peace will be too deep to deny. The clarity will be too loud to ignore. You'll stand in the space, and something inside you will say, "This is what I saw. This is what I felt. This is what heaven was showing me all along." The vision wasn't just encouragement. It was instruction. It was guidance for your spirit so that, when the time came, you would not miss the place prepared for you. God never leads blindly. He always confirms in spirit what he is about to fulfill in the natural. And now, as you approach the moment of crossing into the new, he is showing you again, not because you forgot, but because it's closer than ever. What you once dreamed is aligning with what you're about to walk into. And when the physical space matches the spiritual image, your soul will rest in a way it never has before. You may have thought you were still waiting, but truthfully, the shift has already begun. You're not standing at the edge of something that will happen someday. You're already in motion. Things are already changing around you, even if not everything is visible yet. It started quietly, subtly, like the first winds before a season turns. But in the realm of the spirit, the movement has been activated, the direction has shifted, and heaven is clearing the way. You've probably felt it. In the places where you used to feel comfortable, there's now tension. The conversations that once gave you energy now leave you feeling misunderstood. The people you once aligned with may feel distant, out of rhythm, or strangely disconnected. Your routines no longer satisfy your soul. And while nothing looks drastically different on the surface, everything inside you knows something has changed. This isn't confusion, it's confirmation. What you're experiencing is what happens when a soul begins to detach from an expired environment. You are not being pushed out by chaos. You are being pulled forward by calling. God has already begun to separate you from what's no longer part of your promise. That's why certain doors have started to close without your permission. That's why certain people have walked away or gone silent without explanation. It's not rejection, it's redirection. These aren't losses. They're signs, sacred signs that the space you once fit inside no longer fits who you've become. You're not being left behind, you're being lifted out. When heaven is shifting your location, it often begins by shifting your atmosphere. And the shift always starts in the spirit before it appears in the natural. That restlessness you've been feeling, that sense of urgency that keeps you up at night, even when you're tired, that subtle grief over places you once loved but no longer recognize. That is the sound of transition. That is the ache of growth. That is the call of the future breaking through the walls of your present. You don't need to panic. You don't need to force anything. What is meant to fall away will fall. What is meant to stay will stand. You are not being left behind. You are being positioned. What feels like disruption is actually precision. What feels like uncertainty is actually a sacred unraveling, the undoing of what no longer belongs, so that what has been divinely prepared can finally take its place. The shift has already started. And you're not waiting for it to begin, you're walking through it now. Trust the changes, trust the pulling, trust the silence. Heaven is making room for what's next. What you are walking through right now, this stirring, this shifting, this unexplainable pull away from what once felt like home is not strange to God. It's not outside his pattern or his character. In fact, it's exactly how he has always worked with those he chooses. When the time of one season ends and the beginning of another approaches, God doesn't leave his people wondering. He points the way forward, often with a promise that was written long before the journey began. What you're stepping into has already been spoken over your life, not just in whispered prayers or personal dreams, but in Scripture itself. Long ago, the same God who is stirring your heart now made a covenant, a declaration that still holds power today. It was spoken to a people he loved, a people he led out of struggle and into something far greater than they could have imagined. And now, that same promise is circling back to find you. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, a land with large, flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide. Deuteronomy 6:10-11. This is not a metaphor for someone else. This is a mirror for you. These words are not just history. They are prophecy alive and breathing over your life. You've spent seasons building, giving, waiting, praying. You've stood in places where it felt like you were always pouring out and never receiving. But now, heaven is shifting the weight. What you once toiled to create is already waiting for you, fully formed and fully yours. God is not calling you into a blank space. He is calling you into a prepared place, a place where the ground is already fertile, the doors are already unlocked, and the provision is already placed. You didn't build it, but you'll live in it. You didn't fill it, but it will sustain you. This isn't about reward for effort. It's about alignment with promise. And the beauty of it is this: the promise doesn't depend on your perfection. It depends on God's faithfulness. He's not asking you to earn it. He's simply asking you to trust him enough to walk toward it. What is ahead of you is not the result of striving, it's the result of grace. It's the fulfillment of a word that has lived longer than your fear, stronger than your delay, and deeper than your doubt. You're not stepping into something random, you're stepping into something written, and now the page is turning. The next chapter is beginning, and the very land heaven once described in ancient scripture, it now carries your name. If you've felt opposition lately, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you're not imagining it. The closer you get to stepping into what God has promised, the more resistance tries to rise up around you. The atmosphere shifts. Doubts you thought you buried start whispering again. People you love become distant. Plans begin to stall without clear reason. It's not bad luck. It's not coincidence. It's warfare. Every move of God draws the attention of the enemy, because the enemy fears what happens when you finally walk into alignment. He doesn't fight what's not a threat. But the moment heaven begins to shift you forward, hell begins to panic. Not because of where you've been, but because of where you're going, and you are going somewhere holy. That's why you felt the tension. That's why the confusion hits hardest when you're on the edge of clarity. That's why fatigue follows you when you try to take steps of faith. It's spiritual interference, a last-ditch effort to distract you from what's already been settled in heaven. The enemy knows he can't undo God's promise, so he tries to delay your agreement with it. If he can't stop the promise from coming, he'll try to stop you from believing it's yours. But here is the truth. This battle has already been decided. The moment God declared the promise over your life, the outcome was sealed. No opposition you're facing now can override what was written before you were born. You're not fighting for victory, you're moving from it. What's happening isn't meant to stop you, it's meant to reveal how much power you truly carry when you choose faith over fear. So don't be discouraged by the noise. Don't be shaken by the tension. Resistance is often loudest right before breakthrough. The enemy may roar, but he has no authority. The heaviness you've been carrying is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're close, closer than you've ever been. And when you take that next step, when you say yes to the unfamiliar, when you move even with trembling hands, you won't be alone. Heaven will move with you. Doors will open that you didn't touch. Peace will meet you in places you've never known. Provision will arrive from directions you didn't expect. Because the promise is not coming, it's here. The battle is real, yes, but so is the victory. And the proof of that victory, it's already waking up in your spirit. Before you can live in the new, you have to be willing to release the old, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. A new environment means little if your soul is still tethered to the pain, patterns, and perspectives of where you've been. That's why the first door God opens is never the one outside of you, it's the one within. You cannot carry wilderness wounds into a promised land and expect to thrive. You cannot inhabit a space of peace if your thoughts are still at war. You cannot build something lasting on a foundation still cracked by shame, fear, or regret. That's why this shift begins with surrender. Not surrender to loss, but surrender to healing. To let go of what no longer serves the person you are becoming. To stop rehearsing who hurt you, what broke you, what didn't happen. To release the need for every answer, every apology, every resolution. Because what's coming doesn't need your explanations. It needs your readiness. This is the time to clear the internal space for what God is about to place in your hands. You can't receive with clenched fists. You can't step into fullness while gripping fear. There is no room for divine abundance in a soul still cluttered by scarcity. So breathe. Let it go. Not everything that followed you through the last season is meant to cross with you into the next. Start clearing the way. If you've been holding on to resentment, release it. If you've been replaying the past, close it. If you've been shrinking your voice to fit into spaces that no longer honor you, stop. The place God is leading you into will not require you to dim your light. It will require you to shine with holy confidence. But that light must be uncovered. And that uncovering begins inside. Begin preparing as if the promise were already yours. Begin aligning your thinking, your speaking, your posture, not with what you see now, but with what you know heaven has whispered. This is what faith looks like in motion. Not waiting passively, but stepping forward actively, even while you're still in between. Because sometimes the deepest miracle isn't the house, the land, the door. It's what happens in your heart when you finally believe. I am worthy of this promise. I am ready to carry it well. I am no longer who I used to be. And when the inside shifts, the outside follows. There comes a moment in every divine transition when believing is no longer enough. You must begin to move like the promise is real. Faith isn't just a feeling, it's a posture, a positioning of the heart that says, I may not see it yet, but I trust it enough to act. And this, right here, is that moment. If you know the shift has begun, if you felt the tension, the release, the quiet urgency in your soul, then heaven is now inviting you to respond. Not passively, not with hesitation, but with intention, with clarity, with quiet boldness, because what you do next will speak louder than what you say you believe. Start living like the door is already open. Clean the space as if you're already packing. Organize what you've been neglecting. Revisit dreams you put aside because you thought the timing was off. Make the phone call. Begin the plan. Pray over the new home, even if you haven't seen it yet. This is not pretending. This is partnering. This is what it looks like to say to heaven, I see the signs. I trust the shift. I'm aligning with what you've already begun. In every major move of God, there was always a moment when someone had to take a step without having all the answers. Abraham walked before knowing where. Noah built before the rain. Ruth followed before she saw redemption. And now, it's your turn to step, to speak, to act. Your obedience won't make the promise appear. The promise is already real, but your obedience will position you to receive it. And that positioning is what heaven is looking for now, not perfection, not certainty, just willingness, just motion, just faith that shows up in the small and sacred ways. So let this be your response, not one of fear or delay, but of deep trust. Let your actions reflect the truth that you no longer belong to the place you're leaving. You belong to the future God is forming. And every step you take in that direction, no matter how quiet, is a declaration, I am ready. Because the truth is, heaven has already moved. The only question left is, will you move too? This is where the journey has been leading. Through the waiting, the wounding, the whisperings in prayer, it all comes down to this threshold, the place between what was and what will be, the final pause before the next beginning. And if you're here, reading these words, then you're not just approaching it, you're standing on it. You've carried the weight of many silent seasons. You've endured shifts that didn't make sense and losses that tried to convince you there was no more to come. But despite it all, you stayed, you prayed, you listened. And now, heaven is making it unmistakably clear. This is not just another word of encouragement. This is a spiritual announcement. You are about to enter the place you once only saw in pieces. This moment is holy, not because of how loud it is, but because of how still you've had to become in order to hear it. And now, from that stillness, God is speaking again, not in riddles or hints, but in clarity. You are not being left behind. You are being moved forward. You are not being removed. You are being replanted. The new home, the new atmosphere, the new life, it's not ahead in the distance anymore. It's here. It's ready. And more than that, you are ready. You may feel nervous, uncertain, even undeserving, but the truth is, everything you've been through has prepared you for this. You are not who you were when this began. You are stronger, clearer, rooted. And now, you are finally stepping into the ground that has been waiting for your feet to touch it. You will know it when you get there. You will breathe easier, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because the air will match your lungs. The space will match your soul. The frequency will match your spirit. And in that place, you will not just survive, you will rise, you will rebuild, you will flourish. And the promises that once felt so far away will begin to manifest like morning light, quiet, steady, undeniable. You have not missed it. You have not lost your chance. You have arrived. And though you may still feel the echoes of the season you're leaving, soon you will see the fruit of the season you're entering. Because the time of transition is ending, the door is open, the ground is holy, and your name is already written there. Walk forward, chosen one. You are no longer on the way. You are home.